Hey, what is up guys, and welcome for another crazy build for Remnant 2. You can just see from what I have for you all today, it's such a fun and super crazy build that is just a blast to play with. Spamming mods never gets old, and this is just no different. It absolutely wrecks everything in the game and even makes easy work of the entire boss rush. You hardly ever have trouble beating any of the monsters or the boss in the game with this build. You can just spam your mods endlessly and just walk through entire dungeons without even breaking a sweat. You literally just enter the dungeons or anywhere you are in the world and just endlessly spam your lightning orbs or your tremors. With this build, there's no need for your mods to even hit the enemies for them to recharge. You can just use your mods regardless, because you have just so much mod power generation that we will never run out of our charges. Even if we try to spam them really fast, you will just never run out. Here you can see I enter a new room in the boss rush. Just as I am walking through, I just launch my orbs and tremors at every turn and everything just dies. It is just insane, you guys, especially if you are in an enclosed space or in a room. Then man oh man, the monsters better wish they were somewhere else. You can literally just stand there and wait for the aberration to spawn and watch it get destroyed by all those orbs. It's just plain dumb fun. It's also not like you need the perfect prism or anything as well. I can show you how to make this build work with the perfect prism and even without a prism with the legendary effect as well. So any of you can try this build out. With that, let's get fully into the build. So firstly, the archetype that we are going to be using is going to be the Archon and the Alchemist. Archon is of course the best choice as we are getting amazing mod damage, mod generation, and just all in all is going to be the best option as we are going to be focusing on spamming mods a lot. As for the Alchemist as our secondary, the reason why I chose this archetype in particular is because it gives an overall 25% damage to everything. And most importantly, I took this class because of the stone skin. I absolutely love this skill. It gives us a huge 25% damage reduction, and most importantly, it gives us stagger resistance. You could go for Challenger as well and use the Juggernaut skill to get that stagger resistance as well, but it isn't as good as the stone skin. That's just because for the stone skin, even after the skill goes on cooldown, you still have 15 seconds of the stone skin active. Whereas if you go for the Challenger's Juggernaut, once the skill duration is finished, you lose all that damage reduction and that stagger resistance as well. So you get really squishy for that small duration of that skill not being active. Whereas with Alchemist, we have that stone skin duration active almost all the time. And that is it for the classes that we are going to be using. And now for the actual gear. First we will look at the Prism. What you will need on your Prism is mostly everything you can get regarding your mods. We have mod damage, mod crit chance, and mod generation as our main fragments on the Prism. And as for the extra effects, we get even more mod crit chance as well as crit damage. Then mod duration is also great as it makes your lightning orbs last a lot longer. More mod damage and mod power generation, and then we have extra explosive damage and damage reduction. I only needed the damage reduction, but since explosive damage and damage reduction can be fused, it's of course a good choice, and as for your Tremor mod, they both benefit from explosive damage as well. Then finally the legendary effect, which in our case is the overpowered, giving us a massive 50% increased mod generation. This is what makes us get our mods back really quickly, so if you do get this effect, I highly recommend that you use it. And now looking at our gear, our amulet is what brings this build all together. Now personally, in my opinion, this has to be one of the best things from the final DLC. No joke, this amulet is just a dream for mod players. What we are using is the reaction chain, and what this amulet does is increases mod damage by 20%, which is really nice. But the second effect is what's most important. It says whenever you use a mod, you will regain 50% of that mod power spent to the stowed weapons mod. So 50% of the mod power will go into our second weapon, but when we look at our mod power generation, we are sitting at 90%. What that means is that anytime we get mod power, it will be increased by 90% of whatever the value it is. Now on our amulet, instead of getting 50% mod power back, we are now actually going to be adding our 90% mod generation onto that number. So now what the amulet is really doing is generating 95% of the mod power that is spent that goes into your stowed weapon. So basically 100% of the mod power that we spend goes fully into our second weapon, which is what is allowing us to constantly switch and spam mods with both of our weapons. Both of the mods on our weapons, Voltaic Rondure and Tremor, cost around 800 apiece. So casting one immediately fills up the mod on the other weapon. No need for any more mod generation on our gear or anything. we can just go for as much damage as we possibly can. We also don't need any more defensive rings as well, as our skills, which is the Stone Skin and the Reality Rune, easily give us up to 50% damage reduction, which easily brings us to around our max 80% DR. So for the rings, we get the Burden of the Scholars to increase our mod and skill damage, Burden of the Destroyer to increase all damage by 15%, Shard Banded Ring to further increase our mod damage, and finally Burden of the Gambler to increase our crit chance and crit damage. If you don't have the Collect Legendary Prism with the overpowered effect, then you can easily add an extra mod generation from rings such as Burden of the Follower and Spirit Stone to get the mod generation higher, so that you can switch and spam your mods easily. The mutators we add on our guns is going to be the Spirit Healer and the Spell Weaver, both of which will give us a tremendous amount of healing as well as recharge our skills so that we can keep our stone skill active at all times. With the Spirit Healer, you can just see how much constant healing we'd get while we are fighting. Just look at the amount of health we're getting every second from our mods. It is just so ridiculous. Even the Annihilation can't even put a dent in our health. Freaking crazy, I tell you, this build is absolutely crazy. As for our Relic, we use the Profane Heart to give us some more lifesteal. Then as for our armor, I'm not even going to try to name this piece, but the head and chest piece that you're looking at right now. And then for the boots and gloves, we use the Bruiser pieces. This puts us in a very nice weight of 74. That way we don't get a flop even if we do happen to dodge. And finally, a quick look at our traits. We always need Fortify just to beef up our armor, Triage to increase our healing effectiveness, which comes from our Spirit Healer mutator. Vigor, Spirit and Expertise are all crucial for our mod regen, skill cooldowns and health. We also get Amplitude to increase the size of all of our mods, which makes it easier to clear out the larger areas. Barkskin for more damage reduction, Chakra to increase our mod duration, and then finally Leech to increase our lifesteal efficacy. And that is basically it for the build. It's absolutely hilarious just how good this build is. Is it the strongest build in the game? Definitely not. But is it fun? It's probably the most fun build you could possibly play in the game right now. It's not like it does hundreds and thousands of damage in a second, but just watching your entire screen be filled with those lightning orbs and seeing shockwaves all over the floor is just pure dumb fun that no other build can possibly give you in this game. Just the feeling of going into a room and just watching the aberration spawn and getting deleted straight away is pure gold. Or when you're fighting the Night Weaver and she teleports you into the cabin and you just rain hell on her, it's just pure chaos, and I love it. Hopefully you all enjoyed this build. I'm sure having a blast with the game, especially since we can re-roll our legendary effects on our prisms. This is just my take on a fun mod build, so do take ideas from it and make something your own, or use this build and have fun with it. It's totally up to you. Let me know what you all thought of this build, and I will catch you all next time.